Welcome everyone to Reinventing Greatness Interviews with Inspiring Leaders. I am so excited for our guest today. Welcome Arti Varanasi.
Thank you, Shari Goodwin. Delighted to be with you today.
It's just so fantastic to have you on this program. So this program is all about reinvention. It's all about leadership and your journey, what's brought you to where you are now. You and I have been friends for a long time now, and I know we met through Women in Technology, which is great. And for those of you folks who are listening who don't know me, I am a business strategist, leadership coach. I specialize in reinvention, and I'm also a crazy passionate horse lover. So Arti and I think we've known each other now for, I don't know, 7 years or so, but it's been a blessing, and I'm so grateful to have you on this program. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to start off by introducing you. You have quite an impressive bio here. So let me read this so folks can get a little bit of a sense, and then we'll jump in and talk about a little bit more of your background and share part of your journey. Dr. Arti Varanasi is President and CEO of Advancing Synergy, where she is committed to developing innovations that empower individuals to lead healthier and longer lives. She has over 25 years combined experience in cancer research, advocacy, capacity building, public health, and project management, and maintains close ties to the medical, public health, and research community. Advancing Synergy served as the technology partner on a grant awarded to Mercy Medical Center in Baltimore, Maryland, from the Susan G. Komen for the Cure to provide virtual, personalized support to women undergoing breast cancer treatment through an innovative technology. So cool. Arti is passionate about developing innovations that build stronger communities and enable all individuals to lead healthier and longer lives. She is interested in leveraging technology to address chronic disease and increase health equity. She is an active member of the health, entrepreneurial, and technology communities in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, serves on a whole bunch of different committees, including the steering committee of the Non-Communicable Disease Roundtable, chair of the NCD Interest Group for the Core Group, chair of Maryland Innovation Center, the Women in Technology Central Maryland Group, and co-chair of the Maryland Innovation Center Technology Innovators Group. From 2012 to 2016, Arti served on the Health Resources and Services Administration National Advisory Council on Nurse Education and Practice, appointed by then Secretary of Health and Human Services, Kathleen Sebelius. Arti enjoys her role as an educator. She's a lecturer in the Masters in Biotech program at the Johns Hopkins University, and recently co-developed a continuing education course in health information technology fundamentals for Howard Community College. As an advocate for improving the training of postdoc fellows, she was one of the founders of the National Postdoctoral Association in 2003. She was also a fellow in the National Cancer Institute's Cancer Prevention Fellowship Program from 2001 to 2005, where her research interests focused on nutrition, immunity, and cancer prevention. It's a lot of stuff. She received her PhD from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and her Master's in Public Health from the Johns Hopkins University. Arti is also a graduate of the National Science Foundation funded Activate program for women technology entrepreneurs. This award-winning program launched her journey into entrepreneurship and planted the seeds for her company, Advancing Synergy. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks. It's always, I don't know. It's funny listening to your own bio.
I know.
It's hard sometimes. So, but thank you for sharing that.
And yours is so impressive, and it's, you know, this is why I read these. I do spend a little bit of time because I want folks to get a general sense of your background without us having this interview type, what did you do next? What did you do next? So that kind of sets the context for where our conversation will go, and what, actually I want to kick this off right now because I'm curious. I'm curious about what drove you to pursue this career. Was there one moment in your background, in your childhood, or was it kind of an evolution? And if you could share a little bit about the genesis.
I mean, I think, you know, I guess when you say this career, I'm not sure, are you just saying kind of this path or, yeah. So I think, you know, I always loved, was always curious. So it's interesting that you use the word curious. And fascinated with science and just, and love science, so I was always kind of in that realm. And then I grew up with, a father who's an engineer and, always loved, building things and did a lot of things at home. And then also one of my uncles is a scientist. And, I kind of look back on the conversations that we had. And I think he often talked to me as one of his colleagues. And I think I was a good sounding board maybe, but he would tell me about his experiments and things like that. And it was very fascinating and interesting to me. And so, I never ever felt that there wasn't anything I couldn't do, and, was always encouraged, follow and did well in school, but, was really driven by my curiosity and interest, right? And so, that led me to, so in high school, I was involved in, had done several science fair projects and won, different awards. And part of that time I did work with my uncle actually in his lab. And actually one of our, both science fair projects, actually, he's really into exploring and actually had led an expedition in India on looking for traditional medicines for different ailments. And so my science fair projects actually focused on the science of Ayurveda and using natural treatments for cancer and diabetes. And so, that seed was planted, I guess, along, kind of as part of my journey. And then, when I went off to college and majored in biology and then kind of continued down that road of following my scientific journey. And, I think it's always been about, whether I realized it or not, how can we make things better, right? So if you had asked me, would I be an entrepreneur or even have evolved into this role of like health technology, which is now digital health, I would have said no, because I didn't even know what it is. But I think a lot of my journey and I guess career path is about being open and really following what excites you and things that you're passionate about, And so I kind of grew up in the lab, so to speak, was at the bench. And remember one summer program I was in, we all had to select, kind of say what our hobby was. And I think I put down scientific research or something like that. And so kind of geeky. And, and my friends were like, they were kind of, I don't know, they were kind of laughing at me. But, I was like, well, that's what I enjoy doing, And so I've now since moved out of the lab, but still love it. And, have an opportunity to be connected through my teaching, right? And then, kind of helping to give the next generations of students and future leaders that foundation and kind of bring my love of science, I guess to the forefront in a different way. So, it's been an evolution. I don't know what tomorrow will hold, but it's about, I guess, being open to the opportunities that are there and, kind of following where my heart takes me, so to speak.
That's so beautiful. And it just reminds me, so it sounds like way back when you were a child, you grew up in this environment that was very nurturing as far as advancing in science and engineering and exploration, and it was quite supportive. And that's just awesome. And I totally get it when you told your friends that, being in science and stuff is what you enjoy. And I look at you a little bit funny, as I've known you a while, and I remember the first time we met, and I always tell you this, is I was just so struck by your energy. We hadn't even met in person yet, but I saw you give a talk and introduce a couple folks, and I thought, wow, who is this person? I really want to get to know her more. You have this really solid, very warm, welcoming energy. And I can imagine that your students really, really resonate with that. So as far as advancing synergy, when did you decide to start your own company, and what was going on for you? Because you could have worked for any one of these institutions, for the rest of your career, I imagine. So what prompted you to kind of take that dive into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so it's an interesting evolution, right? And I think the initial impetus was I was actually invited to be on a panel as part of organization that was, and as you mentioned in my bio, I was one of the founders of the National Postdoctoral Association. So along with that, I've been involved in founding two similar organizations at two separate institutions where I was a graduate student and postdoc. So the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences and the National Cancer Institute. So had, some, I guess, thoughts, ideas about, what we need to do to help support the professional development of graduate students and postdocs. So there was and I believe it was in Montgomery County, they were putting on a symposium and wanted people to kind of speak to their experiences. So I was invited to speak, and which was, great. And as I was walking around the exhibit hall, I saw a flyer for the program that you mentioned, the Activate program, sponsored by the National Science Foundation. And at the time, I had transitioned from my postdoctoral work at the National Cancer Institute to a company based in Rockville, Maryland, that was an information technology company, and had hired me as the director of global health development to kind of lead some of their efforts, translating a lot of the work they had done in the clinical trial space and health to public health. And so I was very excited about the opportunity, and also kind of had my taste of what it was like to be in a company, because until then I'd mainly been in academia and research institutions. So that flyer really piqued my interest. I was like, wow, this sounds really cool. And the beauty of it was that they were training mid-career women. The focus was on women, and either women who had a strong background in science and technology or a strong background in business, to essentially build a technology-based company. So I was like, oh, this is great. And so it was kind of, the program ended up being excellent. It was like a mini theory-based MBA, right? So everything I didn't learn as a scientist about kind of business and all of that, I started to learn, and kind of got familiar with the terminology and all of that. And then, so that another seed was planted, so to speak, right? And we worked on a project together in there, but nothing materialized. And but still had that seed, and went on from the company that I was at to another contract-based research organization, where I was involved in many different, like, small to large scale public health and epidemiological projects, and helping, operationalize research studies. And so the opportunity presented itself, and you mentioned the project at Mercy Medical Center. So we came together, and actually the individual who was the PI on the grant, the principal investigator, was my advisor when I was at Johns Hopkins doing my master's in public health. And she was interested in doing something in the community that was technology based, as was I. And so kind of with that in mind, and I think prior to that, I'd actually launched Advancing Synergy with the idea we could build something like this. So the pieces just fit together. And one of the things when we went through the Activate program was the advice to kind of jump all in. So I had that in the back of my head. And, one day when we were awarded the grant and the pieces were kind of coming together, I resigned from my full-time job and went full-time with Advancing Synergy, and haven't stopped since. So there have been multiple different projects, there's been an evolution, but it's really been a process of, really trying to make a difference through technology, and really engaging and bringing people together for the betterment of their health.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So what's one of your favorite projects through Advancing Synergy that you've conducted so far?
Well, they've all been very, very different, but I think, and favorites for different reasons. But I would have to say our first project is still, one that resonates, because, and especially now. So I think we were a little bit before our time in what we were trying to do. We were trying to virtually offer patient navigation to underserved breast cancer patients. And, the whole idea was to give them the support, information, and resources that they may not be afforded at the places where they were getting care, right? So to kind of democratize cancer care, make sure they had the right information and support as they were moving along. And we call our system, the software application, POINT, which stands for Point of Need Together. So the whole idea is that you're meeting people where they are at their point of need and then supporting them as they go through their cancer diagnosis and treatment and into survivorship. And so, you know, just the feedback, there were 100 patients in the, or 100 individuals, study participants in the study, and the impact that, the feedback that we got from them was really, you know, let us know that we made a difference. And several of them, one of the pieces of feedback that we got, which came from a couple of individuals in different ways, but essentially the idea was this, and as part of the study, the application was called 10. So they said 10 is part of my medical team. That was pretty, yeah, pretty, you know, I'm not, impressive is not the right word, but just, it really touched us, right? Because this was something that was inanimate, right? It's just like a software application you open up, but we were able to engage them in such a way that they felt like having access to that information and this piece was part of their medical team. That, to me, that is pretty incredible. And I don't forget that, right? And so, you know, everything we've done since is like, how can we have that for more people, right? Because everybody needs different things as you're going through different challenges in life, and being able to provide what somebody needs at a particular point in time, I think is really important, right? And can make a huge difference in their immediate reaction to something and also their long-term outcome. And so that sticks in my mind. And then, you know, we've also done different projects where building on some of that, using our subject matter expertise of building training curriculum and working with, you know, helping to develop, looking more strategically, like strategic plans and things like that. So I think everything kind of comes together, but it's interesting to see how my own experiences and the experiences of Advancing Synergy have evolved and essentially built on each other, right? And I tend to kind of look to see where there are connections, right? And so, and that's really the, I guess, impetus behind the name Advancing Synergy, right? How can we all work together and from our own areas of expertise, but come together to really advance synergy, right? And improve everything, to, you know, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. You know, I love that you served as part of their team, you know, part of their medical team. You're a trusted resource, you know, to be a trusted, not just even a resource. That sounds like a trusted partner. You know, really a trusted partner is on the medical team, and this is a life-saving process. So we're not, I mean, that's just absolutely beautiful. So, you know, right now, as we're recording this, we're in the middle of this pandemic. So health is top of mind for everyone, healthcare and IT. We're doing Zoom things. Some people have never done Zoom before. I hadn't before this year, and here we are. What do you see as some of the biggest opportunities right now for the healthcare industry from your perspective of advancing synergy? What would you say?
Yeah, and I think, you know, thank you for that question, Shari, because, you know, what we're looking at right now with the application that we had initially developed is how we can reposition it in this time of COVID, right? And because unfortunately people aren't, or fortunately, you know, depending how you look at it, but aren't going to in-person visits as much, right? Because of the risk of exposure, right? But at the same time, and I said fortunately, unfortunately, so fortunately we have the technology to have that connectivity, right? So people aren't missing their visits. But at the same time, there's certain things that people are foregoing, you know, like cancer screenings and other types of appointments, which could be detrimental in the long run, right? And so that whole balance we're trying to have to work through. So we feel that, you know, what we developed, and we had, you know, been working to try and move it forward. And I think that's the challenge of technology in this space, right? I think it has great promise, but there also is the infrastructure sometimes needed, or the buy-in and then the learning curve, right, for people to engage in it. And we're seeing that across sectors right now, right? You mentioned that some people had never been on Zoom. So in healthcare, education, people have to learn all this stuff really quickly, right? And so how can we empower and support essentially the workforce to be able to engage in these new tools? And how can we support the end users too, right? And so that's something that we always keep in the forefront of our mind at Advancing Synergy is like, it's not about the technology. It's really about that interplay with the human and the tech, and really looking at how they're going to engage, and part of it's human-centered design, right? But how they're going to engage, and is it going to be useful to them? And what are the outcomes? What are the data that's being collected out of it, right? What are you going to do with that, right? Is it actionable data, or is it just going to kind of sit there in the computer? And so on the horizon, we see the rise of many, now it's called digital health. At the time when we it started, I don't even know if that was really as mainstream of a term, but it has become now. And I see that's the way of the future. I don't think, when we try and access our bank account now, the fact that we can make transactions on our phone, it's just second nature. It's not like, oh, I'm going to, digitally make this digital transfer or something like that. We don't have to physically go to the bank as much, right? And so I think that's probably where healthcare is going to go. It's going to be a new model, but one that hopefully will support everyone. And we have to be cognizant of the fact that, everybody may not have the same access points when we're looking at technology, and so that was one of the things in our initial study. We made sure everybody had a device that could connect to the internet. We weren't relying on them having their own device and connecting to their own internet, because many people may not have it, and you're seeing that right now with the schools that have had to go to virtual classrooms. They've had to ensure the best that they can that the students have a device and the connection points, right? And having to figure out if they don't, how do you address that? And so one of the new ventures that I've recently got involved with is a co-founder of a nonprofit called Health Tech Alley. And the goal of that is to really see how we can help to support the workforce and educate them around digital health, and especially in areas that are typically under-resourced, right? So it's about, and potentially upskilling those workers, and so giving everybody the vocabulary and the tools that they need to best support their community.
It's really amazing to me how well positioned you are to do exactly what you just said. Because with your background in education, you have this great understanding of how people learn and what they need in the vocabulary, the lexicon, all of these things that are so incredibly important so they're not intimidating. And you've also done so much work as a health expert, so you have that whole piece. And then you have the IT component. So, talk about synergy. You are right there, right in the spot that I call it the high impact zone. And that's a highly charged, and I imagine almost volatile place, because there's so much change, all the time, that it would be almost hard to figure out, to discern, well, where do I apply this? Where do I take this? And the speed of action, I imagine, would have to be quick too, because the responsiveness and being proactive and responsive, because things are changing so fast. So this leads me to the question around challenges. What are you seeing personally in your own business, your own career? I use the word career, maybe I should say path, journey. Keep it more broad. I'm talking to a scientist, I need to be concise. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges right now for you and the work that you're so passionate and committed to?
Yeah, I think, right now, one of the challenges is kind of, I guess, finding your way through a lot of the noise, so to speak, right? And just, and staying focused, because I think there's so many areas that you could go into, right? Or paths that you could take, so to speak. And so, kind of carving out a niche and then moving forward in that path, right? And then finding, as with anything, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, in the middle of the pandemic, finding the capital to move forward is always, a challenge, right? Because, whether it's the capital you raise or through other sources, there's always different paths to that, right? And so it's trying to, kind of put all those pieces together like a puzzle. And, you just have to try, right? Because there have been things that I've tried that haven't worked and things that have worked. And even when you least maybe expect it, things come your way and you're able to like build on successes. And so, I think part of it is having a clear vision and I like to stay optimistic, sometimes that can be challenging too, right? But staying optimistic and not losing sight of what, your focus is. And I think, Shari, you and I had this conversation, I think a few weeks ago, and we were sharing how, one of the things I mentioned, my father earlier, but one of the things that is, he had a lot of health challenges as I was growing up. And in seeing that, I'm gonna get a little emotional, but
yeah, it's hard, sure.
In seeing that, I saw that everyone, and he was fortunate, he had good care. I think physicians that really cared about him and listened to him as a patient. I saw that didn't happen for everyone.
Yeah.
And have tried to make sure in everything that I do that some piece of that where everybody has an equal opportunity comes through. Whether it's related to their health or their education, and my mom was a strong force in that too. I mean, she went, as we were growing up, she finished her degrees and then ended up supporting the family for many years because my dad couldn't. So, that's kind of what drives me. And, until we had that conversation, I don't think I really thought about it, but it's actually part of my core. And, I really feel like the work that we're doing now, whether it's through Advancing Synergy or other organizations or in the community, but it's really, I feel as if it's, my moral imperative to be able to move some of this forward, and one of the other kind of driving forces behind starting Advancing Synergy was that I felt that there were advances. I loved working in the lab, and working on really exciting areas, but I didn't know even if I developed the next best, treatment for cancer or next, immunotherapeutic or whatever, if it would get to the people that needed it the most, and so that's what really drove me to launching Advancing Synergy and gave me the confidence. I felt like we have the resources at hand, right? We need to do more to make sure that what we have gets to everyone, but especially those that need it the most, and keep doing the research that we're doing, right? Because those advances are important, but that whole, I guess, transition, right, from the research to the they call it bench to bedside, but I would really say it's more than that. It's really from, going from an evidence-based outcomes to results that are informed by evidence, right? And so I think that really benefits all of us as a society and as a community and as the whole world. So that's kind of, I guess the driving force behind some of it. And I even forgot what your initial question was. So sorry about that. I'm just kind of, kind of stream of consciousness talking, if you will.
It's the best, Arti, absolutely the best. And thank you so much for sharing so deeply. You're bringing up so many important points. And I just love your commitment and in the words that I use is this leveraged impact. you know, this collaborative force that comes together of all of the best experts in all of their different spaces, including you and advancing synergy, and you happen to cross over in multiple areas of that, which is awesome, makes you perfect core for this to lead. And the fairness piece, the equity piece, you know, you're walking your talk, you're speaking your values, and you're failing fast, taking the fast action, being, you know, coming back up, taking new action, and I see you doing that, and I hear you describing that a little bit too, and the importance of it, the importance of just try. You don't know if it'll necessarily work, but get out there and try something. As an entrepreneur, that's really important to put something out. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Get it out there, get some information, and then go back at it and recommit, come at it from another angle. I love that tenacity in you, and it's obvious in how you're describing your journey as well. Getting back to the why is also, I'm hearing a couple of really core things. Getting to that place that really touches you so much that it brings up some powerful emotions. That's our why, that's our driver. And when we lose sight of that, sometimes it's hard to even create a vision for going forward. So it's important to do that deep reflection and then also pull it out and say, okay, so what does it look like now? And this picture can change a lot over time. Especially now with everything that's going on. So I appreciate where you are with that. So let me ask you one more question, two more questions. Sure. So on this whole journey that you've been on, and especially this last part, there's a huge leadership component, leading yourself, leading teams. You've played a pivotal role in many organizations on committees. What would you say are maybe, I don't want to put you on the spot, but just what comes to mind for maybe the top 3 leadership attributes that you're finding you have to keep employing and working with over and over again, or maybe not just you have to, but you get to and you go to. Maybe that's a better rephrase. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think and that's a great question, Shari, because I haven't really, I guess I don't think about it on a day-to-day basis, but I think one would be listening, right? And being able to, just listen and see what's needed, right? And I think that the second is, I kind of see myself as kind of my leadership role in the different organizations is more of a servant leader, right? And so either, taking the lead when it's needed, and taking a step back when others are leading, and kind of supporting where it's needed to move the whole organization forward, right? And so, so the listening piece becomes really important, and being able to, I guess, be flexible, right? Be flexible, but still be, I guess, kind of hold your ground and be, I don't know what the right word would be, but not committed, but I guess steadfast, right? Being able to be steadfast in that position, but then also being able to be flexible. And I think that ties in to the listening piece of it.
What a great response. Thank you for that. Awesome. So for other folks who are watching and are thinking about reinventing, making some tweaks, maybe shifting their brand a little bit if they have a business, or expanding into new space, or maybe they're working for somebody else and they're thinking, I'm really got the golden handcuffs here because I'm getting paid, I get the benefits, but I'm really it's kind of sucking the life out of me. I'm ready for something new. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say, it's a calculated risk, right? So, but, think about where you are. And I kind of, and Sharon, you and I had this conversation too, sometimes you're in organizations and you just feel like, you said the golden handcuffs, but like your hands are tied and there's more that you want to do, and that's how I was kind of feeling. And so an opportunity presented itself, and my husband was supportive of that too. And I think that's important. You have to have a support system. Some people were kind of like, what is she doing? But, I had that immediate support system, and now we have a son, and I think together, both of them are very supportive. And it's also given me more flexibility to do things with him. I mean, right now we're not going on any field trips or anything like that, but I have been able to go on all of his field trips since he was, since he was born, and in preschool and all of that, and kindergarten and first grade. And, I'm not sure that would have been the reality if I couldn't ask myself, can you take the day off? Sure, you can take the day off, So it's, so my advice would be, to just be brave and take that leap, right? But keep in mind, it is a calculated risk. And so think about what your support system is and all of that, but you can do it. And it's not the end of the world. If it doesn't work out, there are other opportunities too. And you'll have a whole new skill set. When I reflect on what I've learned and how I've grown over the past almost 10 years now, which it doesn't seem like it since we founded Advancing Synergy, because every year has been different, and I mean, Shari, I don't think we may not have even met, because I don't think I would have gotten involved with women in technology, so the opportunities, and more than even the opportunities, the people that I've met along the way and learned from. I mean, I've learned so much from you over these years, and just love, like learning from the horses and what you share. And it's just adds a different dimension that I don't think I would have ever had, So I guess my advice is just be brave. In the words of, I guess, Nike, just do it. And, put yourself out there. You don't have anything to lose. And on the contrary, there's so much to gain, and even more for the world to learn from you and to gain from you. So all the best. And and I don't think, if you had ever asked me if I would be an entrepreneur in the sense of an entrepreneur, I probably would have said no. But now I'm in it, and it's what, where I am. So.
Yep. And you're rocking it. You're doing so great. And we're so lucky to have your commitment and your passion, your brilliance and your expertise, just making a huge difference for everyone in the world. So thank you for your commitment and your courage and for your words. And see, this is why I call this program Reinventing Greatness Interviews with Inspiring Leaders. This is why. I mean, I'm like all buzzed up. I'm like, do it right now. I'm going to go do it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm already doing it. I could do more.
Well, before the interview, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to say. And I was like, oh, well, Shari's a pro. So whatever, she's going to guide me through this.
No, you're amazing. You're amazing. And this is the thing, sometimes when you're doing any of these kinds of things or whatever, it's most important to be authentic and just share. And that's definitely what this program's all about. So any closing thoughts you'd like to share with folks before we wrap up?
No, I would just say, thank you, Shari, and thanks for doing this. I think all of the interviews that I've watched so far are incredible and inspiring, and I guess final thoughts are, just get out there, follow your passions, and be inspired, and, take those chances. So all the best to everyone who's listening.
Oh, thank you, Arti. And I'm taking your words. I'm taking notes. I'm going to go out there and follow my passions. So thank you so much for sharing so fully. And thank you for all the folks that are watching, and stay tuned for our next episode. And be sure to check out Arti. We have her website at the bottom there. Check out all the good work that she's doing. And you're also on LinkedIn, so you can connect if you'd like to reach out and talk to her about projects. And this is just the tip of it. I mean, Arti, we could talk all day, all weekend on all kinds of subjects. So an amazing person. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you for your time too.
All right. You take care. Bye.
Take care.